Hi there, this is Chris from MoneyHub, and this video explains credit card minimum payments. So many people in New Zealand can't pay off their credit card every month, and some of them pay some of the amount, some of them pay the minimum payment, and then some of them unfortunately make no payment whatsoever and get a penalty fee and a lot of follow-up. This guide is really focused on the minimum payments and explaining what they mean and what the costs are in the long term by just making them and not being able to pay any more above them. So it's best explained with some examples. So at the end of the month, you'll get your credit card bill and it'll say the balance due, and then it will also give you an option for a minimum payment. Now, this minimum payment is going to vary based on the bank that your credit card is with. So if it's with KiwiBank, that we can see right here, it says that the minimum payment is going to be 5% or $10, whichever is the greater. So if you owe $1,000 in your closing statement, then the minimum payment is going to be $50 because that's greater than $10. And with the BNZ, it's going to be 2% or $25, whichever is the greatest. So if you owe $1,000, then the minimum payment is 2%, but it's also, that's going to be 20, but actually 25 is higher. So you'd be paying a minimum of $25 for that payment there. So we've itemized these here, and you can see that like we see the best banks is being KiwiBank and TSB because they charge the most, which does, as I explain in a minute, keep the debt in control and kind of helps you to pay it off if you are just making these minimum payments. And then we see the worst banks as the BNZ and Westpac because they're 2% with a low kind of minimum. And the problem there is that, you know, the interest can just keep growing and a lot of people tread water and it takes them years and years and years to pay off a balance. So if we just go to an example, so first of all, I'll explain that 5 credit card minimum payment must know facts. And the most important thing there is that really the lower the minimum payment is, the longer that you'll be in a debt trap. And if I explain this now with this example, the $1,000 credit card bill, if there's a minimum of 2% on that, and say your bank, so not BNZ, but somebody has a $20 minimum payment there, then what will happen is that if your interest rate for the credit card that you have is 20%, then you'll pay off $20. So your balance will go from $1,000 to $980, but your interest rate is 20%. And so over the next 12 months, over the next month, if you don't spend anything more on the credit card, then you'll incur $16 worth of interest. And so what that means is next month, when you'll make your minimum repayment, it's going to be 5% of 996, which is the 980 plus the $16 of interest, which grew over the month. And basically what that means, it'll take you about 16 years to repay $1,000. And over that time, you'll pay over $2,000 of interest costs. And that's on top of that original $1,000. So the problem there is that the lower the minimum payment and the higher the interest rate of the credit card, the longer and more expensive it is to pay off a credit card. Now, banks, I would argue, and probably quite cynically here, don't mind because it's interest, like for them, they make lots of money from this and it keeps people loyal to them. They've got this credit card, you know, it's got maybe someone owes $5,000 on it, maybe someone owes $10,000. They're making these minimum payments and they're really just paying for nothing, because if you make a 2% on it, a 5% on it, then the interest grows over the next month. Maybe you make some more purchases and it's a perpetual debt cycle. So this is a real trap. And this is what it said in the guide, that, you know, these minimum payments keep people in this debt trap, and we think it's really unfair. So if I just go through some examples here with a $5,000 credit card debt, which actually isn't that uncommon. And we do hear a lot from people who are in these sort of situations of, I've got this $5,000 and I can't seem to clear it, and I make the minimum payment every month. What's going on? So right now I'm going to explain it here. So if you have a low interest card, and you've got a 5% minimum payment. Then here the example, and of course these are all subject to change. So whilst I've done this video in April 2023, of course these interest rates and products can change, but it just shows you the interest rate plus the minimum payment really drives how long it'll take and what it'll cost to pay off. So for a 17% per annum credit card and a 5% minimum payment, it's going to take about 9 years to repay, and it's going to cost around $6,700. It's quite similar as well for an 18.5% credit card, a little bit longer to repay and a little bit more of a cost. But then when you look at something like, the 2% minimum, payments, and then you add in a low rate, if you look at a low rate interest, it still costs a lot of money to repay, because that 2% is really treading water. And say, in a month, your interest rate's still around 13%. That's going to take you 17 years and almost 18 years to repay that $5,000, and it's going to cost you $9,600. So this is absolutely mad. Unfortunately, this is what the banks charge, and they don't change it because they would argue, oh well, our card holders are already established with this and we can't change it because it would cause hardship or something like that. But the reality is, and this is probably cynical, but I just believe it's so profitable to keep these minimum payments as they are and let the money roll in. And of course, some people don't repay their credit card. Some people just give up, and there'll be a bad mark on credit credit profile. But a lot of people just keep paying them. And if you look at something like Westpac, it's just these costs just really, really add up. So with all this being said, I just wanted to make it clear that the banks win big from this. And if you do have your credit card statement coming in and you're looking at this, and I would say please try and make more than the minimum, because the issue really is, if you don't, then you're just going to be trapped in this debt cycle for longer, and it's going to cost so much more than you think to pay it off. And so often this happens. So thanks very much for watching, and please leave some comments in the section below, or you can write to us through the website. But we're very responsive to guides, people's comments to improve our guides. So please do that. If you have anything you'd like to know, we're very much happy to help, and we do tend to respond quite quickly. Thanks very much, and best of luck with your credit card.